Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy Manny here once again. Welcome back to another WNBA lineup advice video here for you guys at DFS Zone. And before I get started, man, I appreciate you guys dropping a like on the video. And if you're new to the channel, have never been here before, you have not subscribed, please subscribe down below, especially if you want to get team stacks, game stacks, statistical data, the best possible information as far as matchups are concerned. I'm going to always give the best possible information to you guys every single day, and that's going to carry on from now not only from the WNBA, but as we go into the NFL season in a couple of weeks, and of course the NBA season in October. I'm going to be covering it all, and you don't want to miss out on any of those new uploads, as well as any live shows, because I will be having consistent live shows. So with all that being said, today is Thursday, August the 23rd. It is a 2-game elimination playoff today on FanDuel. We have LA at Washington, Phoenix at Connecticut. We're going to dive right in. We got implied totals for LA at Washington. We have 157.5 with Washington at home favored by 4.5. Washington is coming in here. They've been playing excellent basketball. Out of the last 9 games, they're 8-1. There was a stretch there. They won like 7 in a row. So they're playing their best basketball at home. LA's coming in. They're 3-2. They won their playoff game against Minnesota, that single game elimination against the world champions the other night. And they're moving on here. So we'll see what happens here. These teams have played each other 3 times this year. Washington has won 2 out of the 3. Coming in those 3 matchups, Washington was able to put up 46.3 points per game up front and 32.3 points in the backcourt. LA was able to put up in the 3 games against Washington 50 points per game in the front court and 29.3 points per game in the backcourt. I look at those numbers. I always want to see where they have done, what they have done against one another. And then I also look at where they're at as of right now, because you got to be able to gauge one or the other. Or if both things favor in one direction, then you at least have an idea where to go from there as far as finding player matchups. So last 3 games, Washington has given up 47.3 points per game in the front court and 25.3 in the backcourt. LA's coming in the last 3 games, minimizing teams to only 43 points in the front court per game and 31.3 points per game to guards in the backcourt. So they have done better in the front court than the backcourt, and then the reverse is for Washington. They have a little bit more that they've given. Both teams are playing well enough. These numbers are excellent. They're like way below average for the season as far as the whole WNBA, with 25 and 31 and 43 and 47. That is excellent. Let's get to the players here involved. We got Kristi Toliver, 6,900. Kristi Toliver in play. I mean, we all know she's a competitor. These are games that she gets up for. I mean, she's been pretty solid. She doesn't have a whole lot of upside, as we all know. 6,900 is, a little pricey for her, but she is at home, and they obviously with FanDuel they'll do that, home games as well as minimal matchups. So, you only have 2 games on the slate today. Again, most importantly, ladies and gentlemen, everybody on the slate is available to play. I mean, everybody is in play here as far as setting up lineups. The key here is obviously that focus on those players. Most importantly, the studs. Remember, it's a 1-game elimination, so everyone is in play. All studs and all stars, all starters are going to get maximum amount of minutes. The games are close. They're going to go all the way. We could see 35 to as much as 38 minutes per player who starts on any one of these 4 teams tonight. So keep that in mind. You definitely want to find your core 3 or 4 that are solid studs that you could squeeze, and you get those value plays that are going to give you 15 to 20, or maybe 20 or better minutes, and have the potential to probably get you 4 or 5x and cover that value. If you can do that and you can find that combination of players and make a nice lineup and make multiple lineups, you have an opportunity to cash. All right, so with that being all said, again, Kristi Toliver, 6,900. You need about 34 from her. She's averaging 25. Price obviously is a little bit up. We want to see if she's somewhere near that price first, and then we want to see if she's at least near her average. So at 6,900, you need 34. Like I said, it's pretty pricey. So she has gotten close to 34 a few times, as you can see here. We go to her average of 25, and she's at 25 or better in 1, 2, 3, 4 straight games. So she's doing okay. Versus LA, we look. She played here against LA recently on the 17th, put up 30 spot in 34 minutes, had a pretty decent game. Obviously, she can get you 35, maybe even close to 40, but don't have a big upside. She's not going to get you 40 plus on any given night. She will have to be extremely hot, okay? But she is good for 30 to 35, so she'll be close to this value. All right, so LA 30 here. The previous game, she had a little bit less numbers here. July 7th, 27, pretty much a 28 spot in 36 minutes. And in game one, 15 and 37. Overall, not too bad. Last 3 games, she's been shooting fairly well, 52% from the floor and 47% from 3. So if you want to take that into consideration, you should. And she's also shooting 100% from the free throw line over the course of those games. She does have a good home and away split. And at home, basically against LA, she's done not too bad with the shooting, at least from the floor. 50% from the floor. Has struggled with the three-point shot, and that's going to happen because LA is very good at defending threes. As we look over here at the team stats, I always share that. Always could come back and look at this and pause the video. As you can see, LA defending threes, 31%, pretty much under 31% against their opponents. So they're the best as far as defending threes in this slate today out of the 4 teams. Washington is the second best. So something's got to give here. Either Christy Tolliver still gets her open shots and buries them, or maybe it'll be Chelsea Gray. I'm kind of favoring Chelsea Gray more in this matchup. But Christy Tolliver, again, in play, 30% shooting. She has been shooting well from the free throw line. She's been aggressive against LA in 3 games. 17 free throws, have hit all 17. 17 for 17, 100%. Okay, so definitely something to consider or to keep in mind here. 24 to 25 fantasy points per game is a little low. It's obviously near her average. Okay, her average is 25, so she's at least around average against LA. We go come over to Chelsea Gray. I think even a slightly even better play. She's $200 cheaper, and she's been getting massive minutes. We know she's going to be on the court. She has been a very integral part of this LA team, especially the other night she showed it. She took over the game, put up a 42 spot, definitely covered Candace Parker, who was really struggling. Probably was a little ill and didn't play well at all. But Chelsea Gray came to play, and I told you guys I was all on her, and I was all over Ms. Bonner and Ms. Taurasi as the best possible game stack and team stack. And those girls went off as well. So Chelsea Gray, 2 out of her last 4 games, pretty much at 40 or better, 42 or better. So you can see that here on the screen. All right. Had a 27 against Washington, pretty much a 16 spot here in 32 minutes, a low game for her. And then prior to that, also only about 27 in 32 minutes. Now, she's not going to go out there and put up 40 all the time, but she's been playing well enough as a late that you can give her the benefit of doubt. Not only that, also her splits are pretty good. Last 4 games, okay, first things first. Last 4 games, 46% field goal percentage and 41% from 3, and shooting 93% from the foul line. So she has been absolutely excellent. Her splits are great, 47% field goal percentage and 46% from 3, averaging about 28, 29 a game, which is pretty much her average. Versus Washington, shooting 63% from the floor and 62% from 3. I mean, those are excellent shooting numbers, and Washington, has their issues, of course, with field goal percentages. As you can see, 45, pretty much 45. Both teams giving up about 45% to each opponent, to the opponents. So the longest is a pretty good field goal percentage shooting team, and she's capable of hitting threes fairly well, and she's been doing that pretty well as of late. I definitely like Chelsea Gray in this matchup, and one of the best plays here in the night for the price at 6,700. I think she's excellent with a possible 40 plus. So she has a little upside to her, and she has momentum going her way. So it's a lot of things I like. I think Chelsea Gray definitely a fine play. Both of them could be good plays today. I kind of like Chelsea Gray at $200 cheaper. Ariel Atkins, she is back, 6,000. These mid-tier, lower mid-tier players here, not too bad here. Kind of like Ariel Atkins the best. I'm not too sure about Natasha Cloud, but Ariel Atkins, AA, 6,000. You need 30, and she's averaging 21. She just came back, and she put up 17 in 19 minutes, nearly 1 fantasy point per minute. She was playing pretty well prior to being ill or, being away. So, last game against LA, she didn't play. The game prior to that, She did put 24 in 22 minutes, and the game before that, 25 and 19. So she's averaging more than 1 fantasy point per minute, and I kind of like that. And not only that, she takes a lot of shots, and let me take a look at her a little bit closer here. Where's Ariel Atkins? Yeah, she takes about 10 shots a game and about 4.5, almost 5 threes a game. And she's shooting 36% clip and 43% from the floor. So, and averaging 11 points a game. So I like the idea of having her. I definitely like Ariel Atkins here, 6,000. I think she can definitely cover that price. Natasha Cloud, a little bit. She's possibly a fade here for me, 5,700. Did notice that she's only shooting 26% versus LA. And that's a little downer. And then she's 0 for 8 from 3. She has not hit a 3, and 8 shots against LA in 2.5 games. She's only had she hasn't hit anything. She's 0 for 8. So a little concerned there. I like Ariel Atkins a little bit more for $300 more, or I'd rather come down and play Miss Raquana Williams, 5,300. She's been playing pretty darn well as well as of late. 5,300. You need pretty much like 27, 26. She's averaging 11. But she's been pretty much an integral part of the offense as of late, as we can see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, pretty much the last 6 games, she has been very much involved in his offense. And girls like Essence Carsons and Miss Sims are now obviously being faded a little bit more in the rotation. They're getting minutes, but then they're not being in there in the critical stages of the game. And this is where Raquana Williams definitely is in play for me in that aspect. 20 plus in 3 straight games, and she's averaging pretty much 23 to as much as 26 minutes. She put a 20 against Washington here, 21 pretty much in 24 minutes. Prior to that, I don't think she was much in the rotation then. As you can see, only 18 against Washington the previous time in game 2, only 1.5 fantasy points. So as you know, that's the difference. Let's go by what's going on here. In the last versus Washington in 3 games, she is actually shooting 52% from the floor and 54% from 3, hitting 6 of 11 shots, averaging about 15 fantasy points per game. But as the way she's been playing as of late, I could see her being a very, very intriguing play here today. So Miss Williams is definitely in play for me. Not on Miss Carson, so Miss Sims. I'll look into it. Remember, I'm going to look into all these players a little bit more, and I will be back on the live show and tell you whom I really think are viable possible plays here in the bottom tier. Same thing with Elena Beard. Could play massive minutes as far as defensively, but she's not going to put up a lot of points. So I'm not on her. I look down a little further. Maybe Miss Curry could be someone that we can consider as a value play. I think Ruffin Pratt, who has had better numbers. Miss Ruffin Pratt, 3.7. You need pretty much 16, 17. She can get you about 15 or 18. It's been pretty good against LA, man. I checked her out last night. 46% from the field goal, 46% field goal percentage, and 60% from 3. Only taking 5 threes against LA, but she has hit 3 out of the 5, and she is 100% from the free throw line. She's been able to get her free throw line 8 times and had hit all 8. She's averaging 17 to 18 fantasy points per game against LA. As you can see, she put a 20 spot here in the last game not so long ago in 20 minutes. That's 1 fantasy point per minute. So she could be a possible sneaky play here, man. At 3,700, that is definitely a bargain. So definitely someone to consider there. We go to the forwards. Of course, Elena Delle Donne. She's in play. So is Candace Parker. Candace Parker a little struggling the other night. I think she was a little bit sick. She might have caught something from Nneka Ogwumike, who was sick for a couple of games before that, so it could be her. That might have triggered something, who knows, but Candace Parker should be back well today. I just kind of leaning towards Delle Donne a little bit more. She is at home. She's $200 more. She's had time to rest, get herself prepared, just in case Candace definitely is probably still not feeling 100%, so I'm keeping that into consideration as well. Not only that, she has been struggling as of late, where Elena Delle Donne has been okay. She hasn't been, lights out, but she's been pretty good. 8,400. You pretty much need 42 from the Elena, and she's averaging about 39. 4 out of her last 6 games, as you can see here, she's at pretty much 38 plus. So that's pretty much above, around her average or above average. Versus LA, right here, 36 spot in 32 minutes. Not massive amount of points, but more than 1 fantasy point per minute. She got only a 24 spot in game 2 in 37 minutes. That's a concern. And she did put up a 40 spot in game 1 in 36 minutes. All right. Now, this game in the middle here was in LA. So LA a little tougher at home. She's a little bit better, and Washington a little better at home. That's probably the reason why she got a 40 here. And this game was in Washington the other day, a 36 here. So I like the factors that she is at home, and she actually, the team itself plays better at home. So that's what I'm taking into consideration here. In the last 4 games, she's shooting 50% from the floor and 47% from three. Of course, she has 50 plus upside. So we definitely love all those. Does shoot better. Pretty much on the road, she actually shoots a little bit better. But at home, not too bad. 46% field goal percentage and 39% from three. She averages about 36, almost 37 fantasy points per game at home, which is slightly below her average. But versus LA, so-so numbers. 44% shooting from the floor, 33% from three in the 3 games, averaging about 34, 35 fantasy points. So it's about 3 or 4 fantasy points below her average, but I do like her numbers at home, putting up 36 and 40, as you've seen here on the screen. So I'm taking that into account. So I like Delle Donne here. Candace Parker, definitely like her as well. She's $200 cheaper. If you wanted to go that route, I'm kind of leaning towards Delle Donne more right now as far as first look. She has in the last, at 8,200, you pretty much need 41. She's averaging 39, so that price is not bad at all for her. Absolutely a good price for her here on FanDuel. She has 50-point upside, as we know. Against, in the last pretty much 6 games out of the last 8, she's been at 38 plus. So she's been at least at average or above. So that's not bad. And of course, like I said, she can get you 50 or better. Versus Washington, the last time out, she put up 34. So that's 1 fantasy point per minute. Pretty much just as balanced as Delle Donne. They're pretty much going to be even throughout. Game 2 against Washington, 26 minutes, put up only 20. And that was at home. So that was surprising. And then the game 1, we don't have that one here. Did she play game 1? She probably did not play game 1. Because game 1 was very early in the year. So that's the possible. That's probably what it is there. But 20 to 26, and so the bottom line is, in the last 4 games, Miss Parker has been struggling. There's no doubt about it. She struggled in the last game as well. In that playoff game, 41% field goal percentage is pretty low. 36% from 3, not too bad. All right. She is good at getting about 8 to almost 9 rebounds a game, 4 assists and 2 steals, averaging about 33 fantasy points, all right, which is, slightly below, about 5 points below her average. Versus Washington in 3 games, she has that shot, 48% field goal percentage and 40% from 3, which is excellent. She is 100% free throws, 10 out of 10. She has average also 7 rebounds, 7 assists, 1 block, and 1 steal, and averaging about 37 to 38 fantasy points per game, which is pretty much close to our average. So Parker, as well as Delle Donne, they're pretty much evenly matched up. I'm just leaning towards Delle Donne because she's at home. That's more the reason why. But Candace Parker, as you can see with those numbers, she is definitely in play. Latoya Sanders, man, she has been a stud pretty much most of the year for this team. I mean, a big surprise for Washington with Sanders. And without Sanders, they definitely would not be where they're at right now. So she's very, very much a part of this team and as part of this offense. 7,400. You need about 37. Again, that's a high number for her. She's been averaging 26 throughout the year. All right. But 6 out of her last 7 games, she's had 26 or better. No doubt about it. And above average. As you can see, some 40s here as well as some high 30s. Against LA, she's been pretty much at 1 fantasy point per minute, which she is pretty steady with that. 31 here, 29. Okay, just slightly below 1 fantasy point per minute. Then the previous game, 29, pretty much a 30 spot in 24 minutes. And the game before that, 28, pretty much a 29 spot in 24 minutes. So she's been smashing that 1 fantasy point per minute. She's only been averaging 20. Lately, as of late, she's gone up to as much as 31, 36 minutes. They're going to need her to play that amount of minutes today as well. So expect her to definitely play as long as possible, as long as she does not get into foul trouble. We know that she's capable of getting herself into trouble. All right. Last 3 games, not that good in field goal percentage. Last 3 games, averaging about 32%. But she's been averaging during that stretch 8 rebounds, 2.5 blocks per game, 1.5 steals, and still averaging 27 to 28 fantasy points, which is slightly above her average. So not too bad, even though her field goal percentage is a little low. She is shooting well at home, 60% shooting from home. Versus LA in the 3 games, she's shooting 58%. With an average of 9 rebounds, 1.5 steals, and putting up about 29 to 30 fantasy points per game, which is above her average. So I definitely love Toya Sanders here. She is definitely someone to consider. Nneka Ogwumike, she should be better from her illness. She did play the other day and she looked pretty good. 32 minutes, 36 minutes, put up 32 fantasy points. And, 2 out of the last 3, she's been pretty much at 31 or better, which is her average. Price is okay. You need about 36 from her. And she can get you 36. On any given night, she can definitely do that. She did put up a 50 spot against Washington. Did she? Yes, she did. I'm trying to find it here. Yeah, she put 50 against Washington in game 2 in 33 minutes. Had an outstanding game. Last game out, she put 26 and 27, pretty much 1 fantasy point per minute. And in game 1, I don't have that one right here, but I'm sure she did fairly well as well. And, she is, hey, she's the real deal, man. Last 3 games, 47% field goal percentage and 87% from the free throw line, averaging 2 steals per game, as well as 29 to 30 fantasy points per game, which is near her average. Her splits are good at home and in away. Away, she's 51% field goal percentage and 50% from 3. 82% from the free throw line and averaging 2 steals a game, man. Versus Washington, 46% field goal percentage, 50% from 3, 90% from the free throw line, averaging 8 rebounds, 4 assists, 2 steals, and about 35 to 36 fantasy points per game against Washington. So Nneka Ogwumike is definitely someone to consider today as well. When we're looking at Gentel Lavender, 4,200. She had played a little bit of minutes the other day, man, and she was helping out. I had her in some of my lineups, just squeezed her in there, hoping that she'll get enough minutes. She got 13 minutes and put up 15 fantasy points. She covered, she came close to covering her price. I think she was 4,100. So still a little pricey. She's still $100 more expensive today at 4,200, but she's capable of getting you 20. She can definitely pay that price. All right. Hasn't played a whole lot. Last 3 games, 48% field goal percentage is pretty good, only averaging about 12 fantasy points. Versus Washington, 44% field goal percentage on 14 minutes of play right here. Pretty much 16 minutes here, and she put 14. And then the prior time, 15 and 9. And that's pretty much it. But Gentel Lavender, if anything, she's gonna get possibly 13, maybe as much as 17 or 18 minutes. So she could be possibly a nice play here at 4,200. Aerial Powers could be someone to consider, 4,100. You need about 21, and she's averaging 11 or 12. The numbers are okay. We'll love to see 20 minutes or better at this point, but who knows? She had 3 out of her last 4 games. She's hit at least her average or better. So that's at least a start. She did have 24 against LA here in 17 minutes, 10, 10, 1, and 1. Those are nice numbers, filled up the stat sheet, especially with the rebounding and the points. So, she could be a little sneaky play, all right? Shooting okay at home at 47% field goal percentage and 33% from 3. So something to consider. Versus LA, she only played 1 game, and check it out. She put up 44% field goal percentage, 40% from 3, put up 10 rebounds, okay, got 10 rebounds and 1 block, and put up almost 28 fantasy points in that 1 game. So Aerial Powers could be a possible play. T-Hawk is someone else to consider at 3,900. So I'll definitely look into her a little bit more and see if she's a viable play. And that's pretty much where I'm at as far as this game, man. Let's go over to Phoenix and Connecticut. We have implied totals of 176 with Connecticut at home favored by 4.5. Connecticut coming in 4-1 over the last 5 games. These teams have played each other 3 times, and Phoenix has won 2 out of the 3. Phoenix in the last 5 games is won 5 straight games. They're one of the hottest teams coming in. They want to keep this momentum. This is a dangerous game for Connecticut because the stud 3 for Phoenix, especially Bonner and Taurasi, have been absolutely just been lights out the last 4 or 5 games. They've just been absolutely fantastic. So if Connecticut cannot slow these girls down, double team, get Taurasi more frustrated. Bonner is very good with discipline, but Taurasi's the one that could be, she's a firecracker. So, anything can happen. But I still love these girls today, man. These 2 teams, like I said, they've played each other 3 times, and Phoenix has won 2 out of the 3. In those 3 matchups, Connecticut was able to put up 44.3 points per game in the front court and 37 in the back court. So they definitely did well against Phoenix in the back court. Phoenix, on the other hand, put up 54 points per game in the front court and 32.6 points in the back court. So obviously the numbers are saying, hey, you know what, target Phoenix's front court. It's tough to say that, get engaged that now, because that was when they still had Sancho Little, and right now that front court, none of those girls up there is helping Griner other than Bonner. So I mean, so that's not going to happen. I am not going to go with those numbers there. Over the course of the last 3 games, I'll take those numbers a little bit more into consideration here. Phoenix giving up 55.3 points per game in the front court, obviously a lot more than they did against Connecticut, and 30.6 points per game to the guards. Connecticut, 47 points per game to the front court and 33.3 points per game to the back court against their opponents. We go here. We have Diana Taurasi, Dawana Bonner. Hands down, both of those ladies are in play. They're the top guards in the slate, and they are the best possible plays once again. These girls are just on 2. Somebody neutralizes them. It could be Connecticut because they're a fairly decent, good defending backcourt team. But this is a tough matchup for Jasmine Thomas and Courtney Williams. You know, it really is. Courtney Williams is going to have to try to slow down Bonner, and Bonner is just a little bit taller, just as athletic. It's a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup. I really like the matchup already with Dawana Bonner again today. So Bonner and Taurasi are both in play. I mean, Taurasi coming in 8,100. You need 40. She averages 34. 3 out of her last 4 games, 48 plus. And those games were against Atlanta, Dallas, and LA, all playoff teams. So, I mean, Diana Taurasi is the real deal. I mean, if you haven't been here before, I've discussed it time and time again. This lady's very physical. She's very athletic. She is in great shape, and she's just a firecracker, man. She is a competitor, and she wants to win. 250 spots in 2 out of the last 3 games. I mean, it's not much you can, I mean, look at the numbers she's put up against Connecticut. All right, let's take a look here. Here, 32 minutes, 46 fantasy points. Here, 34 minutes in game 2, 45 fantasy points. Game 1, 28 minutes, 28.8, nearly 29 fantasy points per. More than 1.1 fantasy points per minute against Connecticut. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be able to stop her. They're going to have to come up with some sort of concept. I think they really need to try to neutralize her in a way, double team her, trap her, put her in positions where she's very uncomfortable, and hope that they do not get beat with just Griner and Bonner. But I mean, it's going to be a tough task because you still have 2 very good athletic players up front with Bonner and Griner. So I don't know what their game plan is going to be, but if they can get under Taurasi's skin a little bit, she, as we know, can turn over the ball quite a bit and commit fouls. She gets into foul trouble. So whereas Bonner and Griner are a little bit more better disciplined, especially Bonner. So Taurasi is definitely in play, man. Last three games, 45% shooting, 41% from the 3, averaging 48 fantasy points per game. I mean, I don't even need to say much more. I already told you she's averaging against Connecticut. She has 46% field goal percentage, 48% from 3, and 95% from the free throw line, averaging 42 to 43 fantasy points per game against his team. So Diana Taurasi is definitely in play. Dawana Bonner, same thing, no different. This lady has been absolutely just lights out, man. 7,900, pretty much need 39, almost 40. She's averaging 34, and I mean, she's crushing those numbers, man. 4 straight games at 47 plus, massive minutes. I mean, you're going to see at least 36 minutes or better from her today, especially if this game stays close. And remember, this game is going to be a shootout. These teams are both very offensive-minded teams. They love the fast-paced game. They like to take threes, especially Phoenix. So it's going to be really something else if these girls start burying threes here. But again, Bonner, unbelievable. 36 against Connecticut in the last game. I forgot I closed it out and show you guys, just in case for those who are not really looking at it. 35, okay. Connecticut right here. 36 and 36 minutes. A 34, pretty much a 35 and 36 minutes. And in game 1, a 30 and 31. It's like 1 fantasy point per minute. Again, Bonner and Taurasi have been like this throughout the whole year. They're like the dynamic duel, these 2 girls. If you got to shut down. If you shut down one, you have a chance to win. But if you can't shut these girls down, chances are you're going to be in a tough game. So Bonner definitely in play. Last 4 games, 51% shooting, 45% from 3, averaging 11 rebounds a game and 2.5 steals. It's incredible. She is putting up 51 to 52 fantasy points per game, and that's 17 points better than her average. That is nuts. All right? Away from home, 47% field goal percentage, 35% from three, averaging 6.5 rebounds, 4 assists, 1 steal. Versus Connecticut, 44% shooting, and definitely has had her troubles with her threes. Only 27% from three against this team, but she's been putting up 9 rebounds, 4 assists, 1.5 steals during the course of those games against Connecticut, and shooting 91% from the free throw line. So as long as she stays aggressive and she gets to the foul line, she'll be okay. All right. So I definitely like Taurasi and Bonner. Jasmine Thomas and Williams, they're both in play. Like I said, everybody's in play. This is a tough matchup for Jasmine Thomas and Courtney Williams. And then when I look at this price, these prices here just automatically leads me to just go to one or both of these girls here and just pay up for them. I mean, Jasmine Thomas, $7,300. You got DeWanna Bonner for $600 more. You got 50-point upside there, and a woman that has just absolutely been lights out as of late. And we have someone here that could only probably get you 40 on a given night if she's really playing well. So, I mean, that's a no-brainer for me to go up here and think about these two ladies here. The only difference is that more than likely a lot of people are thinking the way I'm thinking, and they might be a little chalky. I don't think a lot of people are going to play them both, but you could definitely play one or the other, and I would think they're going to be in the 30-40% owned, maybe even more. But Jasmine Thomas, someone you can consider, no doubt about it. I'm probably fading on Thomas. I wouldn't mind considering Courtney Williams just simply because she has done a little bit better. 7,100. You pretty much need 35 from her. 4 out of her last 6 games, she's at least at her average. So the numbers are not too bad. She's capable of getting you close to 40. Okay. Can get you 35 to 38. Last time against Phoenix, she did put up 42 in 34 minutes. Did not play in game 2. In game 1, only has 16 fantasy points in 20 minutes, so not a great game. But in the last 4 games, she's averaging 46% from the floor and 36% from 3. So that's pretty impressive. Averaging about 25 to 26 fantasy points, which is about her average, which is good to see. But versus Phoenix, away, she has okay numbers. 48, I mean, she's at home, against Phoenix, 48% against Phoenix field goal percentage and 66% from 3, but only have taken 3 3-pointers. So again, she doesn't take as many as Jasmine Thomas does, but only 3. She hit 2, and she's averaging 8 rebounds against this team in the games that she has played against them, and averaging about 31 fantasy points. So that's actually 6 more above her average. So her numbers have looked okay, pretty good against Phoenix. So she would be someone to consider here if you wanted to definitely save some money, 1,000, but she doesn't have that 50-point upside. All right. Bottom tier here, Talbert could be a possible play. Her price is getting really too high, 6,300. You need about 31, 32. She's averaging 29 in the last 2 games. So someone maybe to consider. 29 and 30 over the last 2 games. She has become a part of this rotation. She is starting in the 3 spot. She's been pretty much playing ever since about right here, as you can see. So that's about 10, 11 games now. So she's pretty much part of this offense right now. She doesn't have tremendous upside. As you can see, this is her best game as of yet, the last 2, 30 and 29. She's shooting pretty well. Last 4 games, I have her here 50% field goal percentage and 36% from 3, averaging about 23 fantasy points per game, which is above average, which is great. But away from home, she's definitely struggled. Only shooting 37% from the floor and only 36.5% from 3. So definitely a concern there. The percentage from 3 is not too bad, 36, 37. That's actually pretty good. But field goal percentage from the floor, 37%. That's pretty low. And obviously, she doesn't have anything. We don't have anything really of value to look at as far as the matchup against Connecticut. So that's what can make her possibly a sneaky play, is that she has not played maximum amount of minutes at all. She has a very small sample of what she has done against Phoenix, against Connecticut thus far. So that may be, she may be a sleeper here. So just be careful with that. But I think at 6,300 is a little risky. Brienne, January, possibly. I'll look in a little bit further. Same thing with Clarendon. Strickland could be a possible play here. She's 4K, should need 20. She's capable of getting you 20 or better. We know that she can possibly get 30 or 40. She gets hot, and they can stretch this floor out a little bit and get some threes. Phoenix is, gives up about almost 36% to opponents. So opportunity definitely there for Connecticut to do something. So, that is an opportunity for Strickland. I'll definitely look into it a little bit more and probably be able to give you a little bit more information on that later. Let's go. I'm not on anybody else down here. Maybe possibly Yvonne Turner. You could probably consider her maybe for a possible play. But I would think that maybe very minimal. I think 3,600 is not a bad price for her, but she's not getting a whole lot of minutes. She could be possibly a play. I'll look into it and I'll let you guys know more a little bit better later on in the live show. We go to the forward spot. Obviously, Griner's in play. No doubt about it. Numbers have not been great against Connecticut, but I mean, she has 50-point upside, so you got to look at that. And of course, everybody is in play in this slate. 8,700, and he pretty much about 44, and she's averaging 40. 5 out of her last 8 games, she's been pretty much at 40 or better, so she's at least at average or above. And like I said, 50-point upside, but the games against Connecticut, it's been a while. The last time they played was their last game they played against each other was on July 13th. Okay, she put a 34, pretty much a 35 in 34 minutes. It's a game 2, 37 in 30 minutes. And in game 1, 31 pretty much in 27 minutes. So only like about 101, 102 fantasy points. Her average is not that great. About 33 maybe, 32 fantasy points per game against. That's way below her average. So Connecticut has definitely done some wonders against her. That's why I believe that this matchup here with Phoenix is going to all come down to Taurasi and Bonner, man. If these girls ball out, they won't need. They will get by well with just Brittany Griner getting 30 to 35, just like they did the other night against Dallas. That's pretty much all they need. So, but as far as us paying 8,700 for her, maybe she's a fade today. Maybe. All right. So last 4 games, shooting 61% from the floor and 55% from the free throw line, which is really low. But still averaging about 40, somewhat fantasy points. Against Connecticut, 56% from the floor, 83% from the free throw line, which is above her average because her average for the season is about 77%. She is getting only 6 rebounds a game. That's a little concern there. She does have at least 2.5 blocks per game against Connecticut. So, I mean, a little bit below average as far as fantasy points. Someone to consider, 50-point upside. I'm probably going to be fading her today, but someone to consider. Alyssa Thomas, she only played these guys. I think she only matched up with them once, and she did fairly well. Phoenix, 36 and 40, and then she missed the second game, and she missed the first game. She missed a lot of games at the beginning. So, she only played one game, and she was effective. That July 13th game, 36 minutes, 11, 8, 10 assists, 40, pretty much a 41 spot. So if you want to base it on that, on the matchup, she did great. Someone to consider 7,500. Why not? You need 37 from her. She's averaging 29. She's been near 29. Ooh, really, really shaky here. There, she had a 42 and a 42 in between, but everything else in between that has been really below 29. So a little concern there. During the last 3 games, though, her field goal percentage is pretty good. 58% from the floor and 64% from the free throw line. Her free throw shooting is horrific. She's not a good free throw shooter, so you definitely don't want her on the stripe. But she's averaging 8 rebounds per game. Okay, over that stretch, 4 assists and 1.5 steals. So if you want to take that into consideration, and she does play better at home. She shoots 49% from the floor with about 8 rebounds per game, 1.5 steals, and 29 fantasy point average, which is her average. So she averages about what she averages throughout the season at home, and she has that possibility of getting you 40. So at $7,500, $1,200 discount from Griner, not too bad. I definitely love Shanae Agumake. Agumake here says out, but the latest news I have is that she's probable. So chances are she's going to play. 7,000, definitely like her even more so than Alyssa Thomas, and definitely more so in this matchup with Ms. Griner. Shanae Agumake, 7,000, you need pretty much 35. She has had 4 out of her last 5 games. She has had at least her average or better. Okay, she missed these last 2, so she's well rested. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, as you can see, 27 or better. She had in the last game against Phoenix 29, pretty much a 30 spot in 22 minutes, and prior to that 17 and 22 minutes. And then she didn't play in game 1. Not outstanding numbers, but we're going to look at not only what she did against Phoenix, but what she's done as of late. Last 2 games, 50% shooting from the floor, 73% from the free throw line, averaging 9.5 rebounds, nearly 10 rebounds a game, 1.5 steals, and averaging 31 to 32 fantasy points per game, which is about 3 points above her average. She's solid at home, 63% field goal percentage, and 78% from the free throw line, averaging about 8 rebounds and 1.5 steals, and like about 29 fantasy points per game, which is about her value, her average. And against Phoenix, she's done fantastic. Even though she hasn't put the big numbers, she is put up. She did have that one big game, which was the last game, 30 fantasy points in 22 minutes. And within the 2 games that she did play, 56% field goal percentage, 72% from the free throw line, and averaging about 24 fantasy points. With the possibility and obviously the capability of getting 35 or better, she is not a bad play here. She could definitely probably get this price for you. Next is Jonquel Jones. And, you know, I love Jonquel Jones. JJ is definitely in play for me. She's been solid. She's probably the best play here in this whole entire matchup in the front court between the two teams. I mean, she's been solid. 6,800. You need about 34 from her. She's averaging 24.5. But look at these numbers as of late, man. I mean, she's been 33, 47, 43, 35. She's been lights out. And she's doing this in minimal minutes. Now it's finally when she got a little uptick here. She's going to need that. They're gonna apply. She's gonna play massive minutes today, and especially if Shanae Ogwumike is not 100%, you could see Jonquel Jones get even more more time on the floor and more minutes. I can definitely see it. So she's had 33 plus in 4 straight games, and she's had 2 43 plus games and during that span. Versus Phoenix, she's only averaged 10, 5 in 2 games, and that's because those games, 13 minutes, only 10, and 13 minutes, only 5, all due to the fact, and over here, 18 minutes and 8, all due to the fact that she was not part of the rotation. Early on, she was struggling. She didn't find herself. And all of a sudden now, over the last 6 or 7 games, or maybe 10 games or so stretch, she has found her field goal percentage. She's found her 3-point shot. She's found her freaking groove back, and Connecticut has allowed her to do that. Now, what we like to see is her still continuing to get those massive minutes. Get 26 or better, get 30, and we'll be quite all right. Her numbers have been incredible. Last 4 games, 71% field goal percentage, 67% from 3. Averaging in that same stretch, 10 rebounds per game, 3 assists, 1.5 blocks, 42 to 43, pretty much 42.5 fantasy points per game, which is smashing. It's smashing her average by almost 14 or 15 points. So she's been absolutely wonderful. At home, her splits are fantastic as well. 62% from the floor and 61% from 3. And 72% from the free throw line, averaging 6 rebounds, 1 block, and pretty much almost 29 fantasy points per game, which is about 5 above her average. So she's above average at home. She's above average over the course of the last 3 or 4 games. She's been incredible. So she is definitely someone that you must pencil in your lineups today. Morgan Tuck, possible low value play. She's played well against Phoenix. In game 2 against Phoenix, 24 minutes, 21 points. She didn't play in the last game, only 4 minutes, didn't get any points. But the game before that, 24 minutes, 21 pretty much fantasy points. And in game 1, 28 and 28. Again, this was when they had Sancho Little and stuff like that, Phoenix. So, you know, I could see where now with these girls out there, and if Jonquel or even Shanae is not able to go a full game, or any one of these get into foul trouble, you can see Morgan Tuck get some minutes, and she may get an uptick in minutes. She's averaging 12 to 14 minutes over the last 2 games. The last game, 14 and 18. I mean, she could be a possible sneaky play here. Someone definitely you can consider here. You could also consider here, also for Connecticut, Brionna Jones. BJ here, good spot, man. Only $3,000. And when I looked at her last night, I noticed that she played and did well early on in the year against this team. Phoenix 28. And again, this was when Sancho Little was involved in the front court. Phoenix front court is totally different now. I could see where she can get some minutes as well because they have had success already there. 20 minutes in the second game, 18 fantasy points, pretty much 1 fantasy point per minute. So definitely some value there. And there's also Miss Peters also for Phoenix. So we can consider her as a value play as well. I mean, yeah, she may get some time. 8-9 minutes, $3,000, bargain price. I think Miss Jones has a better shot. But that's pretty much where I'm at, guys. That is pretty much where I'm at in these 2 games. Like, again, drop a like on the video. If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. And I'll be back with the live show later, 5:30 today, a little bit earlier than norm. 5:30 because the first game starts at 6:30. So at 5:30 I'll be here, and I'm gonna dissect all this right now. I'm gonna do some due diligence, look at some more numbers, and right now pretty much some of the names that I'm mentioning are probably the best possible plays and the ones that you should definitely be looking at. I'll give you a quick look again here at the team stats that are, important stats that definitely always evaluate before you make lineup picks. And that's pretty much it, man. So, I mean, you guys have a great day. I'll see you guys at 5:30. Again, drop a like, subscribe down below, and I'll see you guys later.